Yeah, we can go on to the next slide if you want. Sorry, I feel bad to drive it, but just like this is my passion.
It's fine. Roz is dead, actually.
Roz is dead. I'm an idiot. I'm still thinking about Minions.
I'm trying to pilot Roz like he's a 7-Eleven worker, and I'm there at 2 a.m. just trying to get some cigarettes.
That's some fantastic grass mowing there to do the American flag and the sort of like lawn out from there. That's great work.
Yeah, and they also cut the shape of the track itself into the infield.
Yes, tailgating a NASCAR race is the most fun you can ever possibly have in the United States of America.
What is tailgating? Sorry,
do you not tailgate?
All
right, okay. I guess
I haven't invented it in Europe.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that that's an American thing. You show up hours before a sports match, you get shit-faced drunk, and then you attend that sports match. And in NASCAR, you can bring your RV to the track and tailgate in the infield.
Yeah, and you can also get there like 3 days early and then just continue. Like you can just basically mainline Bud Light for like 3 or 4 days while there are race cars racing around you constantly for like qualifying and practice and, you know, test setup and the feeder series and all that stuff. So you basically just get V8s piped directly into your soul while blitzed drunk in an RV for like 3 days.
Explains some things.
I like how you're not speaking German right now because you're welcome.
It's gonna look like a Ralph Steadman drawing in there, man.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, but instead of
I have a powerful like fucking psychic image of how this smells.
Motor oil, yeah.
Yeah, I will say, like, these cars all run like, you know, race fuel and they don't have any emissions regulations, so it smells.
About the people.
Oh no, you can't smell them over the fucking enormous V8s, just outputting like an entire small airport's carbon emissions for a year, just around you in a circle. It's great. It smells lovely. I love it.
The NASCAR.
I like
it.
Yeah. So how did NASCAR get big in addition to the car changes? These two things explain it. So on top, obviously, this is Daytona Superspeedway, which was built when they built in the fifth. I want to say the fifth. I didn't put the date in here because I'm an idiot. But it was built sometime like in the 50s and 60s.
I believe the 50s, yeah.
Yeah, and it was basically.
Maybe, I want to say.
Yeah, it was basically like NASCAR saying like we want to run ridiculously fast stuff. It has this tri-oval design, so kind of no matter where you're sitting in the stands, you can see as much of the track as possible.
It's also worth noting, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to say, Alice, as like an idea, the largest college football stadium in the United States holds like 120,000 people. The largest racetracks in the United States hold upwards of 300,000.
American Coliseum. They should flood the infield and recreate naval battles in there.
Probably could.
Yeah, they got this whole big pond over here.
Yes, you want to know? Oh,
pretty massive stadiums.
I'm sorry. You want to know a funny story about that big pond in the Daytona infield? They accidentally flooded it when they were doing construction, and Bill France Sr. was like, "Cool, we'll do powerboat races in it," and left it because it was just like, "Fuck it, more attractions. Why not?" So yeah, it's not naval battles, but it's pretty cool because then they just strap a giant V8 to a boat, and like.
I will say one thing: the United States of America is perhaps the most country in the history of the world. Like of all the nations that have existed, America is certainly the most one of them.
I mean, they're very, like I think anybody who's familiar with me on Twitter knows that I'm not exactly a raging jingoist, but I will admit, like NASCAR gets me to be like, oh yeah, America's pretty fucking cool. Just for a moment, just for like when I just clear my mind and I have head empty and I just think about NASCAR, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool, honestly. So what else was cool that NASCAR did to make themselves bigger? In 1971, when tobacco companies were banned from advertising on TV, Reynolds Tobacco was like, hey, what if we called this the Winston Cup and gave you a ton of money? So then that lasted for like 25 or 30 years.
Much like F1. What if this was the last refuge of you being able to think about how cool cigarettes were while you were watching TV?
Yep. And it was largely Reynolds' involvement that, made Bill France kick all the smaller circuits, the like less than 100-mile races or the remaining dirt tracks and stuff, and really focus on making the sport like a made-for-TV spectacle.
Yeah.
And then their first TV appearance was in 1979. There was actually a fight at the end of the race. Everybody got super hyped because it was the coolest shit. Like, a bunch of cars race around for like 3 hours, and then the dudes crash at the very end, and then they get in a fist fight. What is not to love? My God.
There is in my
Victoria
head,
for she spoke the truth.
In my head, I have in the sort of mental cloud for NASCAR, I have the words "the big one," right?
Oh, there's a whole slide for that. Don't worry.
Okay.
I put that in here. But anyway, then Ronald Reagan attended a race in 1980, and that basically, like, the sport becomes part of the cultural lexicon for the next 20 years. So then, can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So
look at those sponsors.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Also through this area, so that top image is that's actually another display at the Charlotte Museum, which again is cool as hell. Just go to it. But that car right in the middle there, which
driving
was
number 7, the Femboy Hooters car.
that car in the middle there, the number 9 Coors car, was from the quote unquote aerodynamic era. But what was happening during this period is the cars were getting insanely batshit fast. So Bill Elliott with that car in 1987 recorded a speed of 212 miles an hour at Daytona.
In that brick?
Yes. And
add more engine.
Yeah, legitimately.
Sorry. Out for Early Irving.
The engine from where? EMD?
It was just it was carbureted still. I mean, this is just what Americans can do when you tell them, hey, we don't have emissions laws to worry about, and here's a V8. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll do 212 miles an hour in this like Thunderbird held together with like PVC grade roll cage. Why not? In any case, though, if your car is doing 212 miles an hour at a closed oval with a bunch of people, like 300,000 people, all sitting right next to the track, what's your biggest concern? And it's that the car
not being cool enough.
Yes. It's that the car basically becomes airborne, flies into the fence, and then kills your whole audience. I believe that there was another episode of this that you did about when that happened, and it killed like a bunch of people.
Yeah, they also made that car out of magnesium.
That's
just
true.
A great time.
But that car wasn't going 212 miles an hour. So imagine if it had been made out of magnesium and it was doing 212 miles an hour. Which these weren't magnesium, but still. So what they did around this time...
The last thing you see is the Femboy Hooters wind coming towards you.
Not a bad way to go, honestly.
We sponsor a NASCAR team, and like the last thing you see is a fucking hood with buysnooze.com scything towards you at net height.
You remember when we were going to sponsor that roller hockey team?
Oh, right, yeah.
But so literally, actually, the same weekend that Bill Elliott hit 212 miles an hour in qualifying, Bobby Allison, who was another big driver at the time, got his car thrown into the fence at about 210-ish miles an hour and almost killed, like, I don't know, hundreds of people. It was by sheer luck he didn't. He also was fine after this. He was like, well, it happens.
Walk it off.
Yeah.
So NASCAR's creation around this time was to invent the restrictor plate, which I've helpfully included a diagram of, which is literally just a big metal plate with some small holes in it that chokes out the motor.
So instead of restricting the emissions, you restrict the opposite of that, the, I guess, emissions, the intake.
Yes. So NASCARs and I have a lot in common in that we both love to be choked out. And basically the idea behind this is you artificially limit the power and speed that the cars can achieve. And this is what they do through the modern era at super speedways. So Talladega and Daytona, these big 2.5 mile long, huge banking, 300,000 spectator events.
You could make the engine smaller.
Yeah, but then you have to change the formula, right?
And then we'd be doing F1, which we don't do because we're Americans.
Yes. Because the idea is to run a standardized engine the whole time.
V8s are cooler than your stupid fucking, it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder. Remember when we had V10s? Neither do I.
Listen. There is a special kind of like satisfaction in watching something that is effectively a lawnmower engine that has just been fucking Mercedesed until it's going 200 miles an hour.